Good evening, Cricut family South Africa. My name is Soraya, and today we are doing an intermediate class. I'm going to wait a few minutes just so a few people can join us. If you can hear me and see me, please let me know. Hello, Alba. Hello, Carrie. So today I'm quite excited for our little Heritage Day class. Hello, Santi. Okie dokie. So we've got people coming in. Hello, Natalie. Okay, so Carrie Lee says perfect. I think she's talking about the sound in the picture, but that's cool. Always said audio is great. Okay, so I'm going to wait one more minute before we kick off this class. So today we are doing an intermediate class. So if you are a beginner, we are going to go a little bit faster than we usually do. But if you have any questions, please do put them in the comments. We've got an amazing admin team that is taking questions if I do miss them. I do keep an eye on the chat. Hello, Musa. Welcome to the class. So today this class is sponsored by Cricut SA and Logitech. And if you missed it earlier, my name is Soraya and I'm a Cricut ambassador, and I'm going to be showing you how you can create your own treat holder today. So it's like a lollipop holder. We are doing a Heritage Day project, which I'm quite excited about. It is September. I love September. It is birthday month too. So again, if you have any questions, please pop them into the chat. If I'm going too fast and you need clarification on something, please do ask. I'll be happy to go back and clarify. And again, also this class is recorded. So if you don't make it to the end, or if you are trying out the project and you need a little bit more guidance, you can always come back either to the event on Facebook, or you can go to the Cricut SA YouTube YouTube page for the replay. So let's go so we can see what we are making today. So this is what we are making today. It is a little like a lollipop holder. Let me get this to focus quickly. Focus, I'm here. There you go. So this is what we are making. It's a little, there you go, treat holder or lollipop holder. It's a Heritage Day one. You can see here, it's got a little bit of a sparkle there, and we've got a little bit of gold vinyl. How pretty that looks. I know it's blurred, but look at that gold shining through. Okay, so there's two designs that we are going to do today. So this is the main one that I wanted to do. Okay, let's see. Let's get that to focus. Okay, focus, I'm here. There you go. So this is the one I really wanted to do. So you can see here, this one also has a bit of a glitter. There you go. Now it's on my finger. That one's got a bit of a glitter. It's a gorgeous design for Heritage Day. I did have a smaller bow. My ribbon's a bit large on these ones, but a small ribbon is quite cute as well. And the star of the show for this is actually this that I've used here is not actually cardstock. I didn't have a pretty cardstock that I wanted to use for this project. So today we're gonna learn how to design these lollipop holders, and we're also going to learn how we can use this Cricut removable vinyl, like a pattern vinyl. This is called the Ditzy Dots. How cute is that? It comes in a pack that's got some other designs on it as well. When I saw this at my friend's house, yes, I took this from my friend. When I saw this at my friend's house, I was like, that is going to be perfect for a Heritage Day project. So you can see here what I've done is this one is a square one. And to create this pattern vinyl, well, to put the pattern vinyl, what I did is I just stuck it on a piece of cardstock. And then this one here is on a plain piece of black cardstock. But what I did with this one is I used the vinyl for the detailing on the decor. Look how beautiful that is. And so they kind of make a pair. This one is square, and then this one here is rounded. So they are, I'm going to show you from the back. So they are two different designs depending on what you are doing. You can do either or. So this is what we are doing today. And again, what we're going to need for this class, you are going to need some cardstock of your choice. So I am using black for this class because that is the design that I've done. But I've done some for kitties that have little animal characters and stuff on it. And for those, I've used like this Cricut glitter vinyl. How stunning and glittery is that? But for today, we are going to use the black. And then, of course, you can either do complementary cardstocks. So here, the black outline would be a cardstock, and then the gold would also be a cardstock. So you can do a different color cardstock or pattern cardstocks if you have, but I didn't. So like I said, we're going to use this removable vinyl called the Ditsy Dots. And the other thing we are going to use is the Cricut metallic textured gold vinyl, and that's going to be our little border behind the silhouettes. You'll also need some treats. So I am using lollipops. So these are kind of lollipop holders, if you would say, actually. However, I have made, this is what the template looks like. So this is what the square template looks like that we are going to learn how to make. I have in the past made these, the hole here, where you would normally put the lollipop stick. So this, I have made the hole a bit bigger, and I've managed to either put a slit here, just a small little cut, and you can actually put a packet of sweets in here. So if you've got like a small little packet of sweets or an ice cream stick or whatever it is that you have, you know, for a cake pop or whatever it is, you can adjust and change this hole, make it bigger if you need to. And that's why I called it a treat holder, because I don't only use these for lollipops. You'll also need some ribbon just to add a little bit of decor to your project, some foam squares, this thing, measuring tape, that's what that's called, and some transfer tape. What I am going to show you as well, when you're working with cardstock and you're working with delicate patterns, how to apply it to your cardstock so that you can align it perfectly. And for that, I am going to be using parchment paper. So this is like a baking paper that's going to help us with our application. So before we get started, what I am going to do is I did measure my lollipops, because lollipops are different sizes. Hello, Candace. Hello, Bianca. Hello, Carol. Welcome to the class. So I am going to measure the lollipops. You do get bigger lollipops, smaller lollipops. And so here, what I measured was, I just measured the length. So from this little piece of packet or from the cover. So I measured from there, and because I didn't want that sticking up, and then I just measured down to the bottom. So I got about 6 centimeters or 5.5 centimeters. And then I just measured this way as well, just to know what my base needs to look like. And I got about a 4.5 centimeter. So if you have a different lollipop, a bigger one or smaller one, whatever it is, then just adjust it accordingly. And because we are going to learn how to actually design this, you'll be able to create your own. Okay. Rionette said, I love that it's a bit different from the normal character lollipop holders. Rionette, I'm gonna, I hope I said your name right. I'm gonna admit I'm like a 5-year-old, so I definitely do like the ones with the little animals on it. But if you're doing this for a a work event or something like that, I know some workplaces do give candy out on these sort of days, but this would also make a great place card holder, like a name card. You can put a name on it. I like to use my table decor. So if you're going to put table decor, for example, if you're doing a little event or something, I like to kind of use it in two ways. So instead of doing the ribbon where I have the ribbon, you could put a name, or you could put a name in like a little bow shape or something, and that can be your place settings if you're having a work event. And I think that's pretty cool. So I have shared the link to my project. So we are just going to go customize and work from there. Hello, Sarah. Hello, Layla. So these are our designs that we are going to learn how to create from scratch. So this is a pretty simple design. Because we don't have sides to this box, we don't really have to learn angles and stuff because that's a little bit more challenging. And so we're going to learn just how to make the simple template. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually group these and hide them so that we can create this from scratch. Hello, Caroline, welcome. All right, so the first thing I did was create the base. So if you remember, I did say that our lollipop holder, or the base of the lollipop, was about 4.5 centimeters. So I'm going to change this to 4.5. And next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add scoring lines, because we need some scoring lines. This is probably the most complicated part of the class, and I'm going to show you how I do it, because I'm not a graphic designer, but my brain works in a certain way. So I'm going to show you exactly how I do it. If you have a different way of doing it, please do share. So I'm going to make this 4.5 as well, so it's the same length as the it's the same length. Oh, I just changed that. Let's change it back. It's the same length as our base. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to put it another one here. So the first step, I'm going to grab both of these and I'm going to align all of these center. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the square and the score line at the top, and I'm going to align top. And so now, because my square was the higher object, when I align top, it's the score line that moved. So what I'm going to do here, and you can see it's the same thing, I'm going to grab the square and the score line, and now I'm going to align bottom. And there you can see again, my square didn't move, it was my score line that moved, because my square was the lower item. All right, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to grab both of these and I'm going to group them. Now, usually when I'm designing myself, I don't always group every step, but just for the purposes of this class, we are learning how to design from scratch. And I know there are some beginners in here, so I'm going to show you how I do it in order to keep everything where it needs to be. And for me, that's grouping. So now I've grouped the square and the score lines, and I've just duplicated it because I'm going to need the same base for both of the tree toppers. So going back to the square one, which is the one that we're creating, I'm going to add another square to, I'm going to move that one over there. I'm going to add another square to our canvas, and here what I'm going to do is I'm going to resize this. So this is the length part of the topper. So that's going to be 4.5 by 6.5, because that was the, this is 6.5. It was 5.5. I actually did 5.5. Okay, so I did 4.5 by 5.5 for this one. And so what I'm going to need is I'm going to need another score line. That is 5.5. Oh, sorry, 4.5. All right, so we have our score line. Sorry, just a second. Going to be, oops. Okay, there you go. So now I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees as well. And here I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to grab it and align horizontally. And then I'm going to grab it and align to the top. And I'm going to group these two again. So this is the middle base, and this is going to be the piece up here that is the length. And you can see I've got my score lines here, here, and then one score line at the top. Now, the next thing I'm going to need is the little flap that's on the top. So I'm going to add another square to the canvas. And this time it's going to be 4.5 by 2.25. Okay, so 2.25, the reason why I did 2.25 is because it's half of the base, which was 4.5. And I didn't really want the lollipop holder, to be completely square. So you'll see when you look at my holder, it kind of goes in a little bit. Let me just show you what I mean. Let's move over here. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. It kind of makes a triangle. It's not a complete square. And that's because I did this 2.25 instead of doing it 4.5 like I did the bottom. Okay, hello Susan, welcome to the class. Thank you for joining. All right, let's go back here. So this is 2.25, and then on this part of the project, what I am going to need is a circle for the hole that we're going to make, and that circle is going to be 0.5. Okay, so now I'm going to come over here, I'm going to grab these two, and I'm going to align center, and I'm going to group. And so now you'll see what I meant by I have grouped a lot of things together in order for us to create our little base. So this is our first part of our base. So what I'm going to do here before we go further is I'm actually going to grab these two. I'm going to align them, center horizontally. I'm going to group them. Yes, another group. And I'm going to duplicate it. And I'm going to bring it down here, and I'm going to flip it. So now I've created the other side of my holder without needing to go through and do it manually for each one. So you'll see here what I'm doing just manually. I'm just trying to slowly or very carefully, not very precisely, but I'm just lining up these squares where there is slight overlap. So this is what I'm talking about. So you can see here, if I click on the square, it overlaps these two shapes. Sorry, what just happened to my shape? It just disappeared. Let's go back and put it back where it is. So what I was trying to show you here, you can see the square overlaps both sides of my project. So what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to use a function that I really like, which is called distribute evenly. So if I just grabbed all of this now and I aligned horizontally, they are perfectly aligned, as in the center line is aligned. However, it might not be perfectly centered, as in this score line up here that I know there's a score line there might not be in the same place as the score line. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab all of these, all of the groups that I created. I'm going to go to align and distribute vertically. And so now you'll see what I've done is I've actually distributed each of these elements perfectly in this space here, in this space. It's all been distributed evenly. And because I did the grouping, what's going to happen now, I'm just going to ungroup all of it so that you can see what's happening. So I'm going to ungroup, ungroup, ungroup. Let's see. Oh no, I grouped them together. Okay, let's go here, ungroup. Again, you don't have to do so much grouping if you're doing this yourself, because I am teaching the class and I want to make sure that you are following me. This is why I am grouping everything. So now you can see if I grab all of these shapes here, so I'm going to grab the square. I'm going to grab all of these pieces here. So I'm going to take the squares and put them together. There should be that many. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I should have 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now if I go to combine and unite, I've created a single shape. By doing this, knowing that all of my score lines were in exactly the same place because I had grouped everything, when I send this to the back, I know that my score lines are actually going to be perfectly aligned. If I didn't do this, if I just kind of did it manually, one of these sections might be bigger than the other section, which would throw off the design a little bit. So this is what we've created. I'm just going to move my 2 black circles to the top. And now in order for us to make sure that everything goes to the mat together, we're going to grab everything and attach. Now, ideally, you can, with these black circles, you can slice them if you wanted, or you could subtract. The reason why I'm leaving them as they are and I'm just attaching them is because if I wanted to, like I said before, make this into a treat topper for a bag of sweets or a cake pop, when I want to put a popsicle stick in there, I don't have to recreate the base all over again. All I need to do is change the circle. Hello, Susie. Susie's always late to the class. Thank you for coming. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab all of these and attach. Before I do that here with the unite, because I'm happy with it, I can go unite and merge layers. So that is just 2 layers that we're working with. So I'm going to grab all of this and attach. So you can see now it's turned my circles the same color as the rest of my design, and that is the very first template that we made. All right, so we're just going to move it over to the side, and the way that I did the other one is pretty much exactly the same. Grabbing the shapes that we need, I use the pennant and I adjusted it to the size that I needed. So for the pennant, instead of doing the 5.5 if you wanted, or 6.5, I made it a little bit bigger just because the top of this one is a bit different. It needs to kind of stretch a bit more, if that makes sense. So I'm going to make this a 6 instead of a 5.5. Okay, and I'm going to flip it. Okay, so that's the base. Here's my pennant, and remember on my base we have our score lines here attached to this base. So what we're going to put here is we're going to grab a circle, and This is what the top of this one looks like. It's actually two circles. So the first circle is going to be gray, and then I'm just going to make another circle, and that circle is going to be black. Okay, so here for this circle, I just kind of eyeballed the circle here. So I kind of went with something along the lines of this, depending on how big you want the where it intersects to be, and align it horizontally. Before I continue, what we are going to need is another score line, and this score line doesn't have to be 4.5, because this score line is actually going to go here, and it's just going to help us bend our design when we are putting it together. So what I'm grabbing here is I'm actually grabbing the pennant and the score line, and I'm aligning it to the top. So you'll see it's the score line that moved. And now I'm just placing my circle back here. Before I do that, let me group again, just so we don't lose track of our score line. So I've grouped the score line and the pennant, and then here is our circle. Let me bring it to the front. And this is the circle that the lollipop stick is going to go through. So that one is going to be the 0.5. Let's bring it to the front. Okay, and then here we are going to grab this, grab and align center. Before I go further, something I did notice when I created this design is because the two circles kind of need to lay flush on each other, what I did here is I just grabbed a shape, grabbed the circle and cut a small piece off it. And so that is me slicing a piece of that circle off. So let me send that circle to the back. Okay, and then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab the black circle. Oh, what happened there? that was strange. All right, I'm going to grab the big circle, I'm going to grab the black circle, and once again, I'm going to group those together. I'm going to align that group with the pennant and score line group, so that we know that they're perfectly centered. And I'm going to, let me move this up a little, actually, slightly. I like it there. Okay, let's align center horizontally, and we're going to group this again. And now we are going to duplicate this group for the other side, and we're going to flip vertically. Okay, and then just like we did for the other one, I'm just going to eyeball this, placing them kind of close together. If you know how to do math, you can actually do this using math, but here we just play around and things don't really have to absolutely be like perfect. So this does absolutely work as well. So here we have all of our groups. So just like we did before, we're going to ungroup them. Okay, so this one I'm going to keep there actually. Oh wait, let me go back. Let's just see. Okay, so we have the group of the pennant. We have the group with the, okay, and then we have that group. Okay, let's group these two together again. Group. And we're going to do the same thing we did earlier, which is grab all of it and align vertically. And so now when we ungroup and we unite, we should have our base template. And because we very carefully grouped everything, it should also be perfectly set out as well. So the last group I need to work with was this group. And so I'm going to grab our square, our pennants. We're going to leave the black circles again. And now we're going to combine, unite, and there we have it. We have our lollipop base. And so we're going to send that to the back. And as you can see, all of my score lines have stayed exactly where they're supposed to be. And so the next thing we're going to do is we're just going to grab all of these and attach. Okay, so remember, when you group, it stays together on your canvas, but when you attach, it stays together on your Make It page. Susie said, how often have you aligned vertical and it should horizontally? Okay, so Susie, I only aligned vertically, oh wait, I distributed vertically only at the end, but through the process I aligned horizontally. So aligning horizontally, let me use one of these. So when I aligned horizontally, it aligned all of my objects this way. So I made sure that when I was grouping the sections, I aligned horizontally throughout, and then vertically, when I distributed vertically, I distributed when I was done. So distributing vertically just meant that all of these shapes and all of the sections are perfectly spaced out. Okay, so those are our templates. And then what I did next is added our little decor. So for our decor items, what I did, and I'm hoping that they are in my bookmarks. There you go. So I search for like silhouette, I search for head wrapped, and what else? You could search for, I think this one here was like head wrap. I searched for that. And this one here, I just did like, you could do like black woman silhouette. You could do just woman silhouette, that also would come up. So when I did these, starting with this one, because it was the easier one, let's move it over here. And so I decided to do this one on the square. And so what I did here for this one is I didn't need the hand and I didn't need the butterfly. So what I did is I went to contour and I contoured out the butterfly and the hand. Okay. And so next, what I wanted to do is I grabbed the square and I just wanted this section. I didn't want the bottom section. The reason for that is because I wanted the silhouette or the head part to be a bit bigger. So I just sliced off the bottom and deleted that. And then what I did here is I just added an offset of 0.12 and that was it. So I'm going to group this together as well. Susie said, then it's missed and you have to undo. So doing it this way, Susie, when I group things, what I do find is because you keep all of your elements together, and this does mean you have to know how to use your layers panel. You have to know, I mean, when I first started crafting, I hardly ever used this layers panel. It was like completely, like I had no idea what I was doing on the layers panel. So doing it by grouping might have been a little bit harder. But when you are grouping the way that I did, if you saw when I merged the layers, when I distributed, everything moves together as one and nothing moves out of place. Everything stays exactly where it is. When you're doing it separately, or if you're doing it, and if you are an advanced crafter, you could do it for sure, 100%. But if you are an intermediate and you're still learning how to design, if you don't have any design experience, this is kind of the stepping stone for you to be able to create stuff like this, where you do them in the baby steps and you learn how to use your layers panel, because that one was a big one. All right, so next up, I did this design. So now if you look at this silhouette, you can see that it actually doesn't have the vinyl cut out. So let's go back to the mat here. Oops, wrong one. So you can see here in this design, when I tilt it to the side, I need this vinyl so that I can cut out the vinyl, so that I can create the little matching clothing to the other box. So how I did this, before I start, actually, what I wanted to do is I did also cut off some of the bottom. Somebody is singing outside. I live on a road that's kind of like a main road, and there's a rugby field just down the road. And I can hear somebody walking up from the rugby field and they're singing. It's actually very beautiful. All right, so sorry, what I'm doing here is, if you look at my layers panel, okay, let me move the square here. If you look at my layers panel, it seems like I have 2 extra random pieces in this lady that don't actually make a difference. So I'm actually going to delete them because I don't really need them. And so I'm going to put the square here, and I'm going to grab, oopsie, let's grab all of this, and I'm going to slice. So that is the first part of us making our little decor silhouette that we are. Oh, Susie said she doesn't know her horizontal from her vertical. Susie, this is what I do. I try the one, and when it goes the wrong way, I click undo very quickly, and I try the other one. That's the only way I know which one is which. Okay, I'm with you now. All right, I'm all caught up. Okay, so this is the lady. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate her. I don't know if you guys can hear the ladies singing. They're singing in Zulu. It's actually very beautiful and very fitting for this class. So I'm going to align these 2 shapes center. And now I'm going to come here to the layers panel, and I'm going to hide one of them, so we don't actually see that one for now. So first I'm going to create the base. So the base, I need the base to actually be solid. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to the contour, and I'm going to say hide all contours. And now you can see I've created the same outline or silhouette that we need for our decor, which matches this one here as well. So that is the first thing we're doing. And now I'm going to bring back the other lady. Let's make her white. Okay, so if you're confused, it's the same. Actually, let's keep it black for now so that you can see what I'm doing. So this is the lady. And what I'm going to do now is I want the pieces for the vinyl. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here, and I'm going to go back to contour. And by clicking, actually, no, before I do that, I remember I actually decided to give her a little dress. And so before I do the next step, I'm just going to take the shape here, and I'm going to slice. Okay, so you can see what I've done here is I've just created this extra piece here, which is actually what I used for her dress kind of thing. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go back here, we're going to go to contour, and now we're going to click on this outline. And so when we click on the outline, now you can see we've got all of the little inside pieces, or the holes becomes the main part of the design. So if you know how to use your functions in Design Space, you can see just how you can change and create other things. So here you can see I turned back on the shape we made earlier. And so the white is going to be our vinyl, the black is going to be our shimmer cardstock, and now the next part is actually, wait, yes, so the white, which is the headscarf and the dress and the earring, is going to be the vinyl, and the last part, to make it match this one, we're going to grab all of them. We're going to offset 0.12, and that is going to be our gold piece. So let me hide these so you can see that's our gold piece, and that's our design. If you would like to use these silhouettes, the silhouette here on the side, the code for that is hashtag M50644029. And the one for this beautiful lady here with the headscarf is hashtag M506220CD3. So that's our design. I'm going to group this and then just size her accordingly. So with this one, I decided to size it on the bigger side. And then this side, I decided to size it on the smaller side just because I wanted that beautiful cardstock pattern to shine through. All right, so these are our designs, and as always, because we have them already prepared, I'm just going to grab these, delete them, and we're going to use the ones that I already have prepared for us. And so now we're going to go to the cut. So I'm going to go to make. Oopsie, let's go back. Okay, guys, let's go back one step. So what I'm going to do here is, because the one is patterned, I'm going to change this to green, just so that they can go to different mats when I do the cut. All right, that should be fine. Let's go to make. Okay, and again, if you have any questions, please do let me know. So this is going to be the one holder. This is going to be our vinyl. These are our silhouettes. These are the back, and then that is the other holder. So I'm going to come back to this one and go continue. It's connecting to my machine, and for the first one, I'm going to choose light cardstock because I am using the Cricut. Actually, sorry, let's move it down here. This is actually the plain one. So this is the plain one, and it is the light cardstock. So let's switch over to the mat. All right. So for this one, it's just going to be the plain cardstock, which is black. And the cardstock I'm using here is Cricut cardstock. So that's why I've chosen light cardstock. So my mat is still very new. So I'm just going to very lightly with my hand make sure that it's stuck down. I'm not going to use my brayer. I'm sure you know that I love using my brayer. And so I'm going to just use my hand because my mat is very, very sticky still. So it's asking me to use my scoring wheel. So this is my quick swap. Okay. And I've got the 01 scoring wheel. If you don't know, this is how you put your scoring wheel or how you change the tips. So I'm going to first put in my scoring wheel. I'm going to load my mat. Hello Nadine, welcome. Okay, and now I'm going to just do the first cut. so it's scoring first, and then we're going to put our blade back in. Just making sure the blade is clean. I was cutting glitter earlier actually. And I'm going to cut. If you've made the lollipop holders, if you've made lollipop holders before, please do let me know. I'd love to hear what you've done. So by the way, I'm actually using this Cricut cardstock. This is massive. I love it. It comes with like 4 different colors. It's huge. It's huge. So that's what I'm using. So I just cut a small little piece. And so what I'm going to do to make sure that it's cut through, you can see I've listed just a small piece. I'm going to unload my mat now. And so for cardstock, as always, what you want to do is turn your mat over and pull back. Okay, perfect. So that is our first cut done, and our first tree holder that we made from scratch, all cut with the score lines. Now I'm going to remove these. Okay, so next up what we're going to do is we're actually going to cut the pattern. So I've already cut a piece of cardstock and I've cut a piece of vinyl, and I'm going to apply this cardstock, apply the vinyl to the cardstock. So let me move this over so you can see what I'm doing. So the key when doing this is to make sure, let's come a bit closer. So the key when you're doing this is to make sure that you kind of get it aligned so that you don't get too many bubbles. And what I like to do here is this removable vinyl, if I open it, I don't have nails. Okay, so this removable vinyl, you can see here now when I peel it back, is actually kind of on the thinner side. It is not a thick vinyl. So when I actually cut this, what I'm going to cut it on is, this is a light cardstock that I'm using. So I'm just gonna press it down. So you can see I've kept some of this backing on. I've stuck this down nicely, and I'm going to roll it back. So by doing this, I'm going to ensure that I don't get any bubbles, and I get quite a nice smooth application. Okay, so you can see here, ooh, we're stuck to my table. So you can see here, if I kind of move this around, there's no bubbles. And that is because I very carefully, well, not carefully, because now I've gone over to the one side. I very carefully made sure that I left a bit of that backing on, and I slid it down nicely. So there is no bubbles in here. So I'm just going to press it down nicely to make sure that it's stuck on. And now we're going to place it on the mat. Okay. So I'm going to place it on the mat like this. And now I am actually going to use my brayer this time. Let's move back a little bit. Okay, so this time I am actually going to use my brayer to make sure this is stuck down really well, because we are going to be cutting through 2 layers. So let's go back to design space. All right, so here we're going to switch to, I'm going to switch to heavy cardstock. Okay, so using heavy cardstock for me works really well. And I'm going to, so heavy cardstock and done. And it's asking for the scoring wheel, the double scoring wheel, but I know I don't need that, so I'm going to switch this to the single because that's what I have. Okay, and I'm going to load the mat and switch out the, let's switch out the blade for the quick swap. Okay, so again, the reason why for this one I'm using heavy cardstock is because I am actually using a light cardstock. All right, so my cardstock is light and I've added an extra level. So instead of doing a light or medium cardstock, it works perfectly for me to do this on heavy cardstock. The next one we're going to do, however, is going to be a little different. Okay, so it's done with the scoring. And now we're going to cut. Okay, so while that is cutting, I'm going to apply this metallic to the piece that I've prepared. Ooh, Susie's making stuff for a bridal shower. How exciting! When you have a Cricut and you can customize everything, it just makes weddings and birthdays so special. Okay, so now it's cut through. So again, I'm just going to lift up and I can see that it's cut through. So I'm going to unload. And with this one, I can be a little bit more not so delicate because it does have that extra layer on it. So here you can see it's scored beautifully and it cut beautifully. So I'm just going to keep that over to the side. All right, so as I was saying, for this one here, because when you cut metallic textured vinyl, the setting is quite a bit, it requires more pressure. So you can see the thickness of this compared to the thickness of the Ditsy Dots. So when I cut metallic textured vinyl, and this one here that I'm going to show you, so these here, I made them in the same way. It's actually Cricut shimmer vinyl on cardstock. Sorry, let me just get it to focus. So it's Cricut shimmer vinyl on the same black cardstock. So when I did this, what I did as well, I also needed more pressure. So for these, I would usually use the glitter cardstock setting. The reason for that is because when you cut glitter cardstock, it does use a lot more pressure than it would a heavy cardstock, and it does two cuts as well. Okay, so I did the same process. I've applied my vinyl to my cardstock. Let me just neaten the one side. Okay, and now I'm going to put this on my mat. And again, I'm going to make sure that I braid this down really nicely. And we're going to make sure that we are cutting the right one. I'm cutting this and I'm going to change this. Let's go back to design space. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm going to change this one to glitter cardstock. You could also cut it on craft board if you wanted, but the glitter cardstock setting actually works pretty well. Okay, so coming back to the mat, and we're going to cut. Okay. So you can see we have our pieces, and because they're pretty simple, I'm just going to bend them. That is the base. Okay, and then here as well, just checking that it's cut through. I'm going to, where is my weeding tool? Let's use my weeding tool to lift up a piece. And you can see it's cut through perfectly. I'm going to unload. So the reason why I always check before unloading with your maker, if you don't unload, if it hasn't cut through, you just need to press the cut button again, okay? But you have to make sure that you don't unload. And here are our little pieces. So if you are like me and really love buying vinyls, and I don't often work with cardstock, so I don't buy a ton of cardstocks, but you can create so many different beautiful patterns and designs using your your vinyls. Your vinyl can be the thing. Okay, so now the last piece that we need is our dress. And for this, I'm actually going to try, let's see. So here what I'm going to try do is, let me trim a bit of this off from the top, because I kind of want a specific part so that we can get as much of the pattern in our design as possible. So with pattern cardstock, it really doesn't matter which way you put it, generally, unless you're trying to achieve something specific. So what I've done here is I want to use sort of this part, or should we use this part? So I'm just trying to figure out which part I would like to create our little dress. I think I'm going to go with this part up here. So I'm going to place that at the top of the mat. Okay, use my brayer to make sure it's stuck down. And here's a little tip from me when it comes to working with very delicate vinyl. So because my pieces are quite small and like very delicate, what I like to do is I actually like to use the washi sheet. And I always find when I do this, my cuts turn out really, really beautifully. So I'm going to load the mat. Albus said, this is such an awesome idea. I can never find the right shade of cardstock. It never occurred to me that I can make my own shades with vinyl. Absolutely, absolutely, Alba. You can. Cricut has some beautiful pattern vinyls as well. And so I love that you can use it to create other things. So for example, this box here, and then her little headscarf is the matching set. So you can create a matching set by using vinyl on one piece and then using vinyl on the cardstock for the other piece. Like, it's so pretty. Susie says she's never checked. She always uses more pressure. I like taking chances. So Susie, if you use the right cut settings and you have a sharp blade, you don't have to use more pressure. I never really use more pressure. So I've just checked my cuts. I can see my vinyls cut through, so I'm going to unload my mat. I never really use more pressure. I always, I check, mostly because, for example, today I am experimenting, if you will. I'm adding vinyl to cardstock, and so using the vinyl setting wouldn't work. So I need to kind of adjust and decide which setting that I'm using. So it's kind of like an experiment. So I always check. If my blade is getting on the blunter side, then I check. If you unload and it's not cut through, you cannot load it again. It won't cut through. And if your blade is getting blunt, even if you do more pressure, it won't cut through. So I always check just to be safe. So here is my cut, and I want to show you how beautifully that cut. Can you see up here? Even though it's pretty delicate, you can see some of these pieces are really, really tiny. It's cut through beautifully using the washi setting. I didn't have to do more pressure or anything like that. But I always, like you said, just make sure that you are safe. Okay, I think I'm done with all my cuts, hopefully, because now I'm just moving my machine away. Let me bring in my mat. So like I said, I love experimenting. So this is pretty much an experiment for me. I love experimenting with different materials. So I learn how the base material works, how removable vinyl works, and I use it a few times. I understand it, and then I can experiment with it by adding it to cardstock. When you learn your machine and when you learn your materials, it's easy for you to then kind of explore and learn different ways of using the materials. Now, I'm not one to experiment with the hardware of my machine. I know what my machine should be doing and what it's capable of doing, and I don't push it to do things that I shouldn't be doing. But with the materials, you can definitely use them in different ways, and it's really fun. So look at that, how beautifully that we did. And you can see there are some pieces that were smaller than the tip of my weeding tool. So we have our base that we created, and then this is the round one. Did I score? I did. Let me just fold them. So they're pretty easy to fold. So I'm going to fold them down. Okay. And next up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue my pieces together. So you didn't see me doing this, but it was pretty much the same process of cutting these. So I'm going to glue them using my Jewel Bond. I'm going to glue them. So I had to crawl under the table to try plug in my glue gun. So here's hoping my glue gun turns on, because I don't want to try again. I feel like I'm going to get stuck under the table and then someone's going to have to rescue me. My plug point is very far from where I am, and so it's going to be a little bit risky for me to try and get there. Okay, so I've just applied the layers together and I'm just aligning it. And what I like to do when I'm gluing stuff is place it under my mat. Okay, so for this one I'm going to first glue it to the backing, and then I'm going to put the vinyl. Okay, and putting the glue on the piece that's in the front. Okay, and then just aligning the second piece. And again, popping it under the mat. Okay, I'm gonna need a small piece of transfer tape. So I'm just going to cut a small piece of transfer tape. Did I lose my scissors? Here it is. Okay. So now what I'm going to show you is how, if you are still a beginner, how you can use parchment paper to align your designs, whether you are doing them on bottles, cardstock. If you're doing any kind of layering, you can use the I don't have my scraper with me, so I'm just going to braid this. How you can use parchment paper or baking paper. You guys need to braid from both sides. We're stuck to my mat. Okay. And now we're going to pull back. There you go. I just needed to braid from the other side. Okay, and there is my design. Let me find my lady. Where did I put her? Here she is. Okay, so if you are a beginner and you haven't done, let's go a little closer. If you haven't done vinyl on cardstock, something to note is use a used piece of transfer tape. If you use a used piece of transfer tape, there's very low possibility that it's going to tear your cardstock. Now my cardstock has this shimmer, so I know that using a new piece will be fine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stick this dress or body part first. Body part first. So I'm going to cover the rest of the design with my parchment paper. Now the vinyl is not going to stick to the parchment paper, so that's how we're going to do it. I'm going to bring it as close to me as possible, even though it's a bit far, it's okay. And align. So you can see here, I'm pressing down my vinyl and pulling back. Now, because this is a shimmer vinyl or a glitter cardstock, it might need a little help to make sure that it's stuck down. Okay, so you can see my vinyl is stuck down and my vinyl didn't stick to my parchment paper. So this is a really great way to do aligning. So here, how you can align this piece is you can bring it here and align it over the parchment paper, stick down the vinyl, and then stick down the transfer tape to your mat, and then put the vinyl down. But for me, because it's a bit far from me, I'm going to just do it without. I'm going to be brave. And there you go. I think it's perfect. Because it's a bit far from me, I can't see through the parchment paper quite nicely. And so you can see here, I'm only pressing where the vinyl's touching the cardstock. I'm not pressing all around, because that is when your transfer tape can damage your cardstock. Okay, pulling back. And there is our lovely lady. So with your transfer tape, as you know, it is reusable. So always keep the backing and put it back on for another time. And that is our lady who matches the other one. Okay, and so here what we can do is you can either glue together the holder and then put the lollipop in, or you can put the lollipop in first, but it is actually fine to Susie said, wing it, I dare you. I did it. Sometimes I actually think winging it is easier, but if you are a beginner and you're still learning how to layer more than one layer of vinyl, this is the way to do it, whether you're putting it on. So I'm just aligned the two holes and I am pressing together. So it's definitely for me, when you are a beginner, using the parchment paper, when you're starting to layer things, it's definitely a tip. And then here is the other one. So this is the reason why we cut a little piece off that circle so that it aligns nicely. Usually in my classes, I don't like to wing it because I'm always really nervous and then my hands shake. And so aligning things, it's not the best idea. So if you have any glue coming through anywhere, just use your weeder to clean it up. And there you go. You should press it down. And here, this is where I would be using foam squares, but I have no idea where they are, so I've made myself little spaces, and I'm going to stick these down. How cool does that look? Like the little pattern. And then you can decide which side you like best. And so when you're gluing it, so this is the seam side. That's the seam side, so this would be the back and then this would be the front, but if you preferred the side to the other side, just glue them the other way. Let me put my little spaces on. And this is Jewel Bond that I'm using. If you know me, you know that I use Jewel Bond for everything. Okay, and then here as well, you can see that's where the seam is, and so this side is going to be my front. Susie says, and then you just redo it. I love it. I love it. Of course, yes. Okay, so my spaces are drying. And let's stick on. So for the patterned one, it's the lady with just the silhouette. Okay, align it up where you wanted. And for this one, you could decide not to put it completely in the center if you wanted. You could put it a little to the bottom or whatever you like. I'm just gonna go to the center because it's easier. If somebody knows where my foam squares are, I used them like just the other day. I'm always buying foam squares and then hiding them from myself because I'm like, you always lose your foam squares. Keep them safe. And then I lose them. Okay, so how gorgeous is that? I'm obsessed. Am I allowed to say that? So I've made some bows for the project, and the bows, I stuck these on, or I glued these on with the glue gun. So initially I had small bows, which I prefer. The first lot I did was the small bows, and then I ran out of ribbon, and so I switched to the bigger bow. This one I think it's a little bit big, but what I've done here is I've used the same ribbon and I've just made the bows a little bit smaller, and I'm going to show you now just how I made the bows. So let me just quickly neaten these out and burn them, and hopefully not burn myself. If you know me, you know that I do not know how to tie shoelaces or make bows. but I do have a hack for these classes. Zelda said bows make everything better. They really do. I never thought I was a bow girl until I started crafting, and now everything needs to have a bow. Okay, I'm not really measuring here where I'm cutting. We're just going for it. And I think I cut that one the wrong way. Yes, I did. Okay, let's close the glue. We might need it if the glue gun didn't come on, but I don't like crawling under the table again. It's a bit risky. All right, so I'm going to show you how I made the bows before we go on using a big piece of vinyl. Okay, coming back out. Okay, so what I like to do is you hold on to one side and then you're going to use your finger. So depending on how big you want the bow, you're either going to make it big or you're going to make it smaller. So holding the ribbon between your thumb and your middle finger, you're going to wrap around your middle finger. And if you wanted a double bow, we're going to go twice and come back around again. And now you're going to go through all of that. You're going to bring it round so you can see that's going to create our little middle section. So you're going to neaten it out depending on your ribbon. So you can see the distance between my fingers. That's how big your bow is going to be. You could make it smaller, you could make it bigger. And then here you can see we've created this loop. And this last loop here that we have, we're going to bring this excess material and we're going to go in this loop. Okay, we're going to go in there. Okay, so we went in this piece that was the same one that we're working with, and you're going to pull tight. Okay, fix it. We're going to freak out a little bit because we're claustrophobic and now it's stuck on your fingers. And you're going to slide it off. And there you have a cute bow. So I did a double bow. That's why I went around twice. So you can see you could separate them or you can keep them together. If you wanted a single bow, instead of going around twice, you just go once. Then you cut it to size, and that's how you make a bow. Don't ask me to do that on my feet or anywhere else. Okay, so here is our two designs. Let me move these away. We're going to bring our lollipops, okay? And I'm going to put the lollipops through. I know mine's big enough for me to be able to slot the lollipop in like that. This one will be quite tight, so if you made it as tight as I did, you might want to put the lollipop in before gluing it, but you can definitely make it work. And so that's what they look like before the bows. And oh, please be working. Did I just glue something to my table? And so I'm going to use glue here on the lollipop stick. Okay, let's do this one. Okay, just make sure we don't have hairs. Nope, I prefer that side. Okay, oopsie. So we're just gluing it for a second. Okay. Letting it dry, and then you can kind of move the bow around if you want to so that it's not blocking your design. And then for this one, I actually initially glued it on the box. I didn't glue it back there. So I actually put down the design a little bit. This time I forgot. So let's just put it there anyways. Oh, sherbet, I just realized I have to go back under the table to put off the glue gun. All right, and so this is the second one. Okay, I'm just gonna leave them for a second so they can dry. I'm going under the table. If you don't hear from me in 2 minutes, come get me. Okay, I'm back. No, nobody needs to freak out. We're all fine. So that is our projects. Okay, and then of course I would just clean up the ribbons, cut them nicely, and just, even them out, fluff them out, make sure that they're not touching the design. But that is our treat holders. And it was actually so much fun to make. Now we know how to design. So here's the first two that I made with the bigger bows. And remember, you can also change the holes at the top if you wanted to make them bigger, to put something else in there. But this is our class, and I hope that you learned a little bit about how to design your own treat holder. Thank you so much for joining this class. Please do share your treat holders. We do have some Heritage Day challenges going on in Design Space, so please do that.